Hi, I'm Tiffani Patlin, host of the Tiffani Talks Health and Wellness podcast, where I discuss tools, tips, and techniques to heal your mind, body, and soul. I am on a godly mission to heal the world. Welcome to another episode on the Tiffani Talks Health and Wellness podcast. Today, our special guest is Rhonda Parker Taylor. She is an entrepreneur, and Rhonda founded Intelligence Solutions, providing training development, academic research, and business writing services. Prior to this, she served as campus director and professional at National College and co-directed a small to mid-size advertising agency named Partnership Plus Design Studio, and she now helps other women choose joy over adversity. Thank you, Rhonda, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to join you and meet with your audience wherever they're listening from.
Thank you so much. And I know that you wrote your fictional book called Crossroads. And when we met previously, I thought it was quite fascinating how you mentioned that you feel that you are subconsciously self-analyzing yourself with everything it is that you've gone through. And I just wanted to know if you'd be willing to just take us back to the beginning of the adversity that you experienced in your life that led you ultimately to now helping other women choose joy over adversity.
Oh, I would love to. And I hope if there's anybody out there in the audience that may be going through some adversity, this will provide some hope for you. Most people, just by looking or seeing my life or even the accomplishments in my life, might just say, she looks like she's had everything and nothing. She's probably never gone through adversity before. But let me tell you, everybody, life, it doesn't matter where you are, what your background is, or what you've gone through prior, or even in the present. It's going to hit at some point. It could be a death. It could be a loss of a job, and all of us experience these things. The problem that I found is with me, I was the first generation immigrant to go to college. So my first adversity was learning how to navigate that and learning how to not be sheltered, because I was from a very small community. It went from that to, as I was being academically strong, I learned that socially I was inept. I didn't know how to have discernment on people that had good intentions and bad intentions for me. So sometimes I would befriend or be around individuals that meant me no good intentions. Then, as life often has, you end up with life adversities, whether it be you're caring for your loved ones that have cancer, which my mother had, or in my case, that there was a bond between me and a woman that I did community service with that was unable to care for her son because he'd gotten into a fight at school, and she faced the dilemma of, can I send him back without there being a problem? We talked. We determined that we would raise him together. He moved in with me, and we were able to successfully get him through his high school years, started his college years, went in, started to be a bouncer at a bar, and he was shot and killed. So not only did we raise him together, we buried him together.
I'm so sorry.
Tell you, anybody that out there that's gone through that kind of pain and had to go through the trials, etc., you find a strength within you. And what we found is that the bond between women was what carried us through. So yes, I have a successful career. I've been able to navigate it, but that didn't stop any of the adversity from hitting me. Instead, I had to learn how to have reserved energy and resilience for when life did happen. I would be able to navigate it and rise above it. So there's so much that we can do for each other to give each other strength, but resilience and energy is one of the major factors that I find helps build self so that you're ready for those adversities.
I really love that you mentioned that about how it was all about women supporting each other like that. And what did you say the second thing? I know you said energy. What was the second thing?
Resilience. You know, people say, how do you get over adversity? Well, you don't get over adversity. What you have to have is staying power, sticking power, ability to rise above it, go beyond it. And it takes from the moment that you get the bad news, gathering that to what I call the Frosty the Snowman effect. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you're out that door. So you have to learn how to get back up after you've been knocked down. The cowboys would have said, get it back up on that horse once you get thrown. But it's not always that easy. It is more like putting one step in front of the other before you melt down.
Yeah, when you and I first met prior to you coming on today, I hadn't really experienced, I experienced one death, but I recently, in the past month of July of 2023, experienced two deaths, my dad and my nephew. And so what you're saying right now is really hitting home. You have to give your time space to grieve, yes, but you can't stop, right? You have to keep putting that foot right in front of the other. And I just really love what you said about how it's really all about women, because I had the joy of spending time with my sister of 31 years. She's a friend, but she's like a sister. And she gave me exactly what you're talking about. So there's so much truth in what you're saying. And wow, it's an energy.
Right.
Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's an energy. It's the relationship building. It's what relationships really are intended to be. It's
Mm.
easy to be there during the good laughters, the cocktail after dinner, the weddings. But when it comes to caring, like for a loved one, and having to get up at 2 a.m. because someone's fallen or someone's got cancer and you have to change the band-aid after surgery, whatever the strife is, sometimes it just takes another one person to remind you, hey, you're still a person. Don't become zombies. Just keep pushing and enjoy even the moment of adversity. And you say, well, how can you enjoy adversity? But that bond with your sister is one that you will always remember, because that person stood by you while you were grieving, while you were struggling, pushed you along, nudged along, and probably cracked some really bad jokes to get you to laugh and smile or think or even eat, and it's those moments that women forget their strengths in. If we're mindful and we practice self-care and care of others and are self-aware, the purpose of the whole feminine energy is to build relationships. It's what we're good at innately. And some people may say, oh, I'm not good at relationships. Well, maybe that's because you haven't pulled that part of you out. You might not be the nurturer, but maybe you're the caregiver. There's different kinds of abilities to build relationships, and so many times we try to compete. How many times have you had a person that you were with, or a colleague at work, and you feel like they're tripping you in the hall, you feel like they're backbiting, you feel like they're talking to your boss, or maybe you're the one talking to the boss about the other person, and we're not supporting. Look at the male network. Even if they don't like each other, they're going to help them get in the door so they can follow right behind them. And women, for some reason, we feel like we have to yank them out of the door, throw them out the window, and try to do some kind of campaign for our skills. Well, if we're self-aware, we don't have to do all that.
Mhm. You said so many like amazing things just then. I really love the idea of the sisterhood. And I agree with you. Women need each other. And there are those women who say, oh, I don't get along with other females. I wonder if maybe they're that person that's, doing all the talking and the dragging, or maybe they've been hurt. There could be
Right.
so many different
Dynamic.
reasons, right? Why they feel that way, or because maybe they've been hurt, they've been scorned, so they're too afraid to open up, to put themselves out there.
Align themselves with men that they be so afraid of.
Yeah, and that's usually what happens. I mean, that even happened to me once. There was a phase where I went through, which is only men, but now these days I find myself surrounding myself with a lot of women, and I feel that energy that you're talking about. And I love it. There's just something about even being like, I've gone to some retreats and just being in a room full of other women. There's that, it's unexplainable, that energy that you feel, especially when they're women who are like-minded, healthy-minded. They're loving, they're caring, and like you said, they have that nurturing or that caregiving, and they each do have their own strengths, and they pour into you and you can pour into them, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful exchange. I really, really love that. So that's what you experienced with the what was she, your sister or friend? I forget.
But well, it was actually, and believe it or not, I would say she's my sister today, but we met through a church event, and we're total opposites. Backgrounds, totally different races, totally different. Everything about us is different. And we just bonded over a couple of events. And then her son started coming to the youth group that I was working with. And it just was a natural bond. And at that point, she was going through some of her own adversities. And at that point, I'm thinking I'm on the top of the world and had everything going. I'm like, you know what? We have this bond with this child, and we want him safe. And we made the agreement, we made the healthy boundaries. And, he packed up his bags, was there the next day, and started school. And, I tell people I never had the pleasure of having children with a man for a variety of reasons. I've been married just a variety of reasons. And I met a woman that instead shared their son. If we could all have that kind of love, to put the jealousy and the cruelty aside, we would have well, first of all, 50% of the population would be happier. And we would be able to make more goals. And then that would make the other 50% of the population happier and more goal oriented and more purposeful and more mindful of people's needs. And maybe 10 or 20% would be left out. But if everybody did that, we would just have a better world all the way. It's learning from others. How can, I thought I knew what life was. But you know what? Until I put my shoes in my feet in somebody else's shoes, and learned about their cultures and learned about their struggles, and realized that, hey, there is more to life than what I've been taught. I was in a very small school. I was in a very small community. My graduating class was 50 people. So what did I know? And when we're able to be prepared for the world, we also prevent ourselves from going through tragedies.
It's a really beautiful bond that you had with her. I think every woman deserves to have a special bond like that.
Yes, I do.
How would you say that whole experience moving forward has affected your future female relationships?
Well, good and bad. Believe it or not, as much as one of the things that I've said, I expected it from every person after that experience. And then, so then I was disappointed, but then that's why, journaling and self-reflection is so important, because as you learn your strengths and weaknesses, I learned I play a game of uncle with life. If it hurts, then I dig in deeper, and try to do it harder and harder and harder. I had to learn to self-reflect and say, wait a minute, you want to prevent that. You want to be able to discern good and bad people. You want to be able to see who has good intentions and who really wants a bond, or who really may just want to see what they can get out of you.
Yeah, and I think it sounds like I love that you point that out, because it's like, yes, you might be listening to us right now talking about this, and maybe you're inspired to, have those relationships, but I think it is important to realize that everybody's on their own journey. So
Right.
you might be ready for that kind of open relationship with a woman, to like just be there for each other's support, but maybe that other person isn't. So maybe we got to give them grace and just,
Yeah.
just realize, maybe move on to the next one.
Yeah. And do it slowly. When you're developing relationships, whether it be a business partner, a love interest, a friend, you have to move slowly, because, I had a friend that once said, you can't hide crazy for 5 years. I thought, well, that's the craziest thing you said, until you've met someone that's crazy, right? So
So true.
it's true. You have to take your time, and you have to be willing to put the same into it that there. What one person's willing to put into it, the other person needs to be willing to put into it too. It's not always one way. It's one way maybe when someone's going through adversity, but that when you're going through adversity, it should be reciprocal.
And it's temporary. That phase
Yeah.
is temporary.
And it may be that some people are there for a season. It may not be that it's going to be your 30-year relationship. It may be that it's, you're there to find a lesson, or learn from that relationship. When I wrote Crossroads, I really thought that I was talking about other people. I was because I have a very methodical, I do academic writing. So, I did research, and how I develop my characters, I do what they call in the medical community a SOAP note, which is basically a subjective analysis of every physical part, every mental part of a human being, and then they put it in your medical records. So I go through and I say, okay, they're 5'4", they're 130 pounds, they are type A personality, they're driven, they're their dad's alive, their mom's alive, they were 2 pounds, and go through all the things. So I'm thinking, okay, this is about these people that I've created. But I realized that anytime you write, you're doing something. So the main character is a type A personality. And when I wrote Crossroads, I thought, okay, I want to present the perceived injustices in the legal system. So it's a crime novel. And, I'm going through it. And as I'm doing it, I'm realizing that, wait a minute, each character has a part of me. How would I react if I was a jury foreman and all of a sudden my life started to fall apart? Would I blame the people in the trial? I think that it's the prosecutor's fault for letting my name out. What about this person is a part of me? Well, one is she has, the core value of work. From the Midwest, you're blue collar, you work until you're 90. And she had that core value. And so I had to evaluate, am I really balanced in my life, or am I putting everything into my work? And I realized that, wait a minute, I thought I was balanced. 30% here, 30% there, 30%, but I wasn't getting joy from it. And the reason is I was just doing it to say I had work-life balance, but I really was a workaholic. And I really was, just the time for myself, or the home time. I may have been watching TV, but I didn't get TV's like 26 on my joy list. So I'm sitting there, really, the TV watching me. When I would much rather be cooking, listening to music, socializing with my loved ones. Those are the things that really brought me more. So I had to readjust from what I learned from the book. And then therefore I started a workbook. what do people really want from themselves and the deep desires that they get joy out of, and helping people identify that.
Yeah, your workbook that goes along with this book, is it all it sounds like it would be asking those deep inner questions that people just normally in a regular day-to-day don't ask because if they're a workaholic, they're busy, busy, busy. Or even, I mean, not just a workaholic in like a business, but even at home. There's moms that can just like go, 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 keeping
Right.
themselves busy and occupied. They don't stop and sit and relax and think about things within, right? Because like you mentioned, the TV, sometimes we get distracted in a book or a TV or a video game or social media or whatever that looks like. But when are we stopping to sit and ask ourselves those deep questions, you
And
know?
where is your joy coming from? It was interesting that you brought up, that you don't want to exclude the non-working mom. When I lived in Salt Lake City, the one thing I appreciated was the non-working mom was appreciated in that culture, in the morning culture, because they had certain duties, and that was, and it was held high. And in the book, I have a character in the jury that's a mom, and her language is different than the main character, who's the workaholic, and she keeps on looking at her, but she's forced to see some of the simplicity, and joy and happiness in being a mother and being home versus. So she really has to question, am I really fulfilling all of my purpose by being so driven in the financial world?
Yes, that's awesome. What else can people expect from this workbook?
And well, the workbook goes through, okay, what's your priorities now? What have you been doing? How,
Mhm.
basically you're kind of journaling a weeks of your activities, so you can't lie to yourself, because if you're anything like me, you say, oh yeah, I exercise 3 times a week. And it's been a month since you walked the 5 miles. And it makes you think about where you are right now. It doesn't matter if that's where you intended to be, or where are you right now. Then it says, okay, what did you look at yourself as being? Let's get this, incongruent thoughts of ourselves to being self aware. And then where would you really get the joy out of it? And it takes you through that. Then it goes through some of the relationships that you have and how you can make them more purpose filled. If you're anything like me, and if if you have a spouse, it's very easy to tone them out, talking, and you won't hear a word. But are you really in that day to day, in that purpose with them? Are you setting goals with each other of what you want your life to look like? And I'm not talking about comparing yourself, because in Crossroads, one of the problems is some of the characters aren't really paying attention to their own purpose. In Proverbs, it says, anger is cruel and fury is overwhelming, but
Mm.
stand before jealousy. If you're comparing and tearing yourself up because somebody else has more money, they're more prettier, you're taller, they're better in sports, whatever it is that they're more educated, then you're destroying your own peace and name.
Mm.
So Proverbs goes on and says, envy makes the bones rot.
Mm-hmm.
So think about bones as they're rotting. It's like a cancer that metastasizes, and no longer are you in your life. You're worried about why you're not living someone else's life.
Mm.
And oh my goodness, if it is something I struggle with. So I don't want to say I'm preaching, because every day you can find someone that has something that would like to experience or have. But when you do that comparison, you're destroying self, because you will go into your own home and behind the closed doors, and you won't be happy with what you have. And maybe you have, I live on 3 acres, so I have joy in critters that run through my yard on a regular basis, whether it be deer, foxes, coyotes, and some people are, oh, that would scare me. But you know what? I sit there and I see, and they don't bother me. They have no intentions of approaching me. They look for, if they see me, they're going to go the other direction. What I see from them is their ability to thrive no matter what the circumstances are. Cold, hot, rainy. They continually go through the same process of their life, and their joy is when the sun comes out, rolling in the grass, or when the grass hasn't been mowed too short, they have grass that they can really eat off of, or hey, the hawk may see a small bird that they think that they can catch. So whatever it is, they find joy in all of that. Where when do we find, as humans, find joy in just the day to day of cleaning your house and making it beautiful, cooking and enjoying the meal you made? DoorDash has made it so easy, but how many times does that meal come burnt, cold, things missing? If we get up and do it for ourselves, we get everything we want. Yes, it takes some planning, and sometimes you don't feel like it. That's when DoorDash is wonderful, or going out to dinner, or whatever it might be. But our life doesn't have to be instant gratification. Find joy in ourselves. It's just beautiful when you can do that, don't you think?
Oh, like I'm just like hanging on to every golden word that you just spoke. As soon as you started talking about Proverbs, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. And that's the key right there. Those last few words that you said is to find the joy within yourself.
Mhm.
Um, man, I'm wow.
Social
Um,
media is wonderful for connecting. You can find every group you ever wanted to go for, but at the same time, it also brings us to a point that if we aren't secure in ourselves, and they're having to put commercials out there to say, wait a minute, it's not your fault that the algorithm's telling you you're not pretty. It's not, they have these commercials now, and it's not true. Everybody is pretty. It
yep.
doesn't matter who you are, where you came from. Everybody has beauty within themselves, and if you just look, you'll find those positive aspects to inside of you. Like, I was born a blonde. Now it's a bottle blonde. I'm old, but I always wanted to have curly hair and curly dark hair. Now, what why? Enjoy who you are. I'd love to be 30 maybe again, but that's not going to happen. I think 30s, 20 might be too young, don't you think?
Gratitude, yes, finding joy and gratitude in yourself and discovering your life purpose, your talents, because everybody, like you said, everybody's beautiful. And I also think that everybody has something to offer in this world, and it's not going to be exactly like the next person. Two
Yeah.
people can do similar, have a same job title, but man, the experience with both of them is going to be completely different, right?
Oh, definitely. And think about it. I am terrible with certain things. I mean, you would think that, okay, she's creative, she writes, but I was not intended to be a writer had it not been a good mentor. I flunked my English proficiency test. I wasn't going to graduate. I wasn't going to be able to get a doctorate or go to college, or even, go to a community school maybe. But it took a 98-pound teacher, literally 98 pounds. She was just the littlest thing, to say, I'm going to tutor you over the summer. And boom, I went to college. It just takes all of us finding our purpose. So writing for me may not have been my intended purpose had someone not taken interest and said, wait a minute, you can do this. And then when you know that someone's going through adversity, don't knock them when they're down.
Mm.
Outstretch that hand. As a leader of an organization, I've been leaders of a couple of them. it's up to us to figure out the reward system that motivates our employees. How can we get a gift card for Ruth Chris and give it to somebody and expect, oh, that's the best gift that they could ever have? Because everybody likes a steak dinner when their car's not running.
Yeah.
Or they're taking an Uber because they don't have a car. Or maybe their kids have been sick and they're not sure, how they're going to pay the medical bills. So learning each individual, and I know some of those large organizations out there are, you're like, oh, how am I going to learn all my? You have soldiers out there, and you need to know what people's struggles are, and you need to make a reward system that motivates them not only to be the best for your organization, but be the best version of themselves. If they're struggling, say, I get it. You have to do your job to get paid. You have to do the best that you can while you're here. But I'll tell you what, I'll do everything I can to make sure you're successful and that you overcome this. As long as you do your part and don't put me in a position where I have to consider letting you go because you're a good worker, but you're going through something right now. Identify that and work out a plan.
Yep. Beautiful last words. Remember, find the joy in yourself. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Before I let you go today, can you please share with everybody when your workbook is going to be out and where they can get the crosswords book?
Okay, so Crossroads, ta-da! We'll start there. It is out. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, some select Barnes & Noble stores, but it's definitely on all of the online retailers, BAM also. I highly recommend that you read it. Hopefully it'll engage you in a way that will make you also consider your life. The workbook should be out by December. It's heading towards the editor. And what it does is it takes all the negative qualities of the different characters and helps you evaluate whether that's in your life. And if you identify with them, you'll be able to kind of do a self-help way of saying, okay, wait a minute, I need life balance, or I need more joy in my life, or you know what, my kids are very envious and they don't have, the right structure, in their life, and it's destroying their peace. So it helps you identify some of those things and helps you work as an individual, a group, or as a family.
Love it. Thank you so much, Rhonda. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story and all of your golden nuggets with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been wonderful discussing with you, and I hope everybody has a beautiful day and make every day great.
Yes, I second that. Thank you, Tiffani Talks listeners. We will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.